Thank you for letting me tell my story in English. It'll flow a lot better this way. I'd like you all to just think of a time when you were young and foolish and perhaps not making the wisest decisions, perhaps putting yourself in risky situations, maybe even dangerous situations. And yeah, I can think of such a time in my own life. I was 16 years old at the time. I was a new student at a high school in Colorado, and I befriended another new student by the name of Andrea. Now, Andrea was very sophisticated. She dressed really beautifully. She was quite beautiful herself. And she drove a Saab. She smoked cigarettes. She was very different from me, but we were friends. And Andrea, I noticed, would get the attention of the opposite sex everywhere she went. When she came to the high school where we studied, she was making so many boys break up with their girlfriends because they all wanted a chance with Andrea. And not only was she turning the heads of the younger of the boys at high school, but college guys wanted to get together with her, and even grown men, I noticed, would turn their heads. She was a knockout. And she worked at a record store. One day, she called me after work and said, "Nan, you're not going to believe this, but I've got tickets and backstage passes to a show. This rock band came in, and one of the band members met me and gave me tickets. So do you want to go?" And I was like immediately thinking, okay, could it be the Police, U2, maybe Elvis Costello or The Clash? I was very snobby about the music I listened to. And she was like, "It's Air Supply." And I was like, "Air Supply? They are not cool." And she's like, "Well, I know they're not so cool, but just come because it's going to be really fun. We'll have backstage passes. I'm sure there's going to be a party. Yeah, let's go." So I agreed to go, and I suffered through the show. And it was just as I thought it would be, one sappy love song after another, and managed to finish the concert, but then was kind of fun to get to go backstage. You know, we floated past the bouncers, and they let us backstage. But then there wasn't a whole lot going on backstage. It was almost like the band had already left. And this band member that invited my friend Andrea to the show turned out to be not a band member, but a roadie. So, you know, the guy who's putting all the speakers in the loading up the instruments. And he's like, "Listen, it's not so happening here, but at the hotel, there's going to be a party, and you guys are invited." And so I didn't really want to go, but Andrea, of course, was very convincing, and she and I drove to the hotel. And the party turned out to be simply a not so special hotel room, Andrea, myself, and the roadie. A fridge full of beer, mini bar, and a double bed. Sketchy situation, and it wasn't comfortable because this guy, the roadie, he was interested in Andrea, and she wasn't so interested in him, but she was just, going along with the evening. And before I knew it, the roadie was on the bed with Andrea, and he's putting the moves on her, and I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable. She's also uncomfortable, and she starts she grabs the Bible next to the bed and is reading scripture. She's quite religious, actually. And she knows her Bible, and she's trying to distract this guy, and he's just kissing her neck, and I was just like mortified, like, get me out of here. And I finally had enough, and I said, Andrea, I'm out of here. And with that, I left. And I still feel bad to this day that I left her alone with this guy, because we didn't know him. And before I knew it, I heard her behind me, and she was running down the hall, and we got into the elevator, and I see when we're in the elevator that she is shaking, and really she had a scare because I left her alone, and that was not cool of me, but I was also in this super awkward situation. And I look back on that now and I think, that could have ended a lot differently, and I'm so glad it didn't. So now, fast forward 30 years, I'm now married to the love of my life. I've got 2 beautiful kids. They're teenagers now, so I'm like, kind of on edge, trying to do my best as a parent to guide them through these tricky years. They're here in the audience here tonight, today. My husband, we live in the center of Delft. We live on the Planpot, not far from the Rietveld Canal, and the Doelenplein. Most of you know where that is. Anyway, it's 4 in the morning. My husband's traveling, and my dog is barking her head off at the front door. And I am full of adrenaline because it's 4 in the morning, and I run downstairs, and I hear someone is actually trying to get into our house. And I quickly deadbolt the door and peek out the window to see who it might be. And I see someone, and they are definitely like trying to use their key to get into our house. And I open up the mail slot and I say, "You woont hier niet?" And she's still trying to get in the door. I see it's a woman from the window. And then the next thing I know, her iPhone comes sliding through the mail slot. I was like, "Dit is niet van mij." And I push it back to her, and I see her from the window then, stumbling down the street, swerving this way and that, very drunk. And I suddenly stop and think, oh my gosh, what if she were my child? I can't just let her, she's gonna end up in the canal. This is really not safe. So I quickly put on my shoes and a coat and run out the door with my dog to see if I can help her. And I say, hello, you were just trying to get into my house? And she stops and says, "Oh, thank you. I'm lost. I can't find my way home. I just moved here. It's intro week. I have a new phone and I have no friends in my phone yet." And I said, "Oh, well, maybe we could call the police and see, if you're registered in Delft, maybe they can tell you what your address is and we can find it." Oh, no. She didn't like that idea at all. And she looked at me with her mascara-smeared eyes and said, "You look like a nice person. Could I come home with you?" So I said, "Well, I don't really know you." I was hesitating. And my dog was wagging her tail and getting to become friends with this young lady. She said, "Your dog thinks I'm nice." Okay. Let's set you up on my couch and you can spend the night. So we get in the door. First thing she wants to do is use the toilet. I'm like, oh, I hope she doesn't have to throw up. But yes, go upstairs. It's right up at the top of the stairs. She locks the door, sits down on the toilet, and passes out. She didn't come out for 20 minutes, but finally she woke up and she came downstairs, and when she saw the bed that I had made for her on the couch, she was so happy, just smiling ear to ear, and she just plumped down and was snoring within 2 minutes. So I went and I got a bucket from upstairs and put it next to her gaping mouth, just in case. And soon my kids would be waking up. They had school that day, and it was what we parents call teachable moment, a perfect teachable moment. See what can happen if you drink too many adult beverages and end up on someone's couch you don't know. Not the best situation, right? The kids would send me multiple texts that day to find out what had happened to the drunk student. Had she found her way home? The drunk student slept till about 9:30, was still asleep at 9:30 that morning. And I was like, ooh, she might have friends looking for her. I'd better wake her up. I'll make her some coffee and sober her up, and she'll be okay, probably, to get home. And I tried waking her up, and she just wasn't responding at all, just completely out of it. So I remembered how she reacted to the police, the idea of the police being involved. If you don't wake up, I'm gonna have to call the police. She sits up, ramrod straight on my couch, and she's looking around and figuring out where she is. And I summoned her to the table for a cup of coffee, and she's looking rather sheepish, looking a bit embarrassed as she comes to the table, sits down. She knows she's going to get a lecture. I'm a mom anyway, of course I'm going to give her a lecture. So I say to her, you were really drunk a few hours ago, and you probably still are a bit drunk, but you were also very vulnerable, and that really, made me nervous. She nodded her head in agreement. Well, I'm just so glad that you knocked on my door. And I'm thinking to myself, and not some horny roadie, not some horny roadie's door. And she finishes her coffee. Do you think you can find your way now? Yeah, I think I'll be fine. Thanks so much, I really appreciate it. And with that, she left. And we never did cross paths again. I never saw her again. And I think we were both glad about that, but I was especially glad that I didn't have to clean up any vomit. Thank you so much.